I think what's particularly tough is the speed of innovation in tech and in e-commerce at the moment is just giving so much choice and so much new stuff that it's really hard to plan for the future. This kind of constant changing is really dangerous.
Welcome to another episode of the Ecommerce Toolbox Expert's Perspective. Joining us today, we have Corin Mills. He's joining us all the way over from the UK. He's the Director of Ecommerce and Brand Marketing at Moo. So welcome, Corin.
Great to meet you and great to be on.
Awesome. I always like to start off by learning a bit more about our guests and their career. So maybe give us a bit of a background. I know you've worked at places like Currys and other brands as well. So maybe kick us off with a bit of an intro.
Yeah, sure. I think for a brand and e-commerce director and marketing, I've got a bit of a different background in that I actually started out more in retail design side of things, kind of training product design, but then moved into retail design. But it really gave me a good insight into customer design. And that was for supermarkets, for offices, for cafes, loads of different sorts of kind of challenges. But the one thing I kept gravitating towards was brand and identity, the importance of communication and that side of things. So yeah, I think the big change in my career came at what was Orange and T-Mobile when they merged. I worked on the rebrand there to EE, which introduced me to two big things. One was the digital need during the transformation, this kind of what was two old school telcos joining to create a modern day one. And then the other side was just the wholesale, what branding really is about, not the kind of vanity branding, but there was a business need, there was a name change, there was strategic positioning, we needed to reposition and the whole business. So yeah, that really made me realize what I love in my career and set me on a bit of a path towards working agency side at Wolf Aliens, which is great on the brand side, working at Currys, which has been brilliant on the omni-channel retail experience, but also then leading big rebrands myself rather than being a part of them and being the lead of a transformation project in a big company. Really it made you realize the complexities of everything from back-end systems to just the getting agreement across a business. So that was a tough few years getting that live, but really rewarding. And yeah, then I find myself at Moo, a brilliant UK-based company that's massive in the States. It's a good 100 million plus revenue in the States. And so it's a weird dynamic where we're centered in the UK, but we have great US teams and looking after e-commerce and brand there. So it's good fun.
Very cool. And I know that sounds like you've done a few rebrands before. I know Moo recently in 24 went through a large rebrand. Why was that the right time for Moo? I know it had been better part of a decade since someone looked at that. Maybe talk us through some of the thoughts behind that. When is the right time to do a rebrand and so on?
I think my experience is, and I've worked with people like this, that often rebrands can be ego-led. Like they can be a big, exciting project that people want to do and lead. And you get to work with new agencies, you get to question everything, you get to put your mark on a business as such, literally, I suppose. But that is the worst way to rebrand a company. It has to be fundamentally tied into a strategic need. And sometimes they're obvious, like buyouts and name changes where there's a direct need. But other times it's because the brand itself needs a refresh, and a rebrand doesn't mean you have to change the logo or name, etc. It does need a refresh. I'd call that more of a marketing system. And then other times there's more a case where there is actually other transformation going on in the business where it's the right time to represent yourself because you really want to put your best foot forward. And the Moo piece was actually a mixture of the two latter ones there, which is the Moo had carved out in the print industry through technology combined with great products, a niche of this kind of really brand conscious companies loved their print and particular business cards. And Moo's brand was kind of being copied more and more as the other competitors kind of realized the strength there. They started. So the competitors were kind of catching up in terms of from a brand look and feel. Human tone of voice has kind of become the norm. But then on the flip side, from an e-commerce side and the commercial side, the product world, we needed to expand into new products. So we wanted to make sure that we had a platform fit. So there's been a piece of work running at Moo around replatforming and introducing a new platform going on. And timing that rebrand to happen before that launch was really important. I think my big advice and learning from previous businesses is joining up a re-platform or a new platform with a branding project is not a great idea. because they just have different ways of managing the timings. They have the pressure, the movement that comes from a replatforming project, just its agile way of working. It's not there. And by tying those two things together, you'll just forever delay a rebrand or forever make a replatform harder. So
Maybe talk us through a bit more, because I personally agree with you, and I've seen some of those things kind of go sideways. Is it because you're kind of changing too much at once? Maybe talk us through a bit why that's a bad idea.
well, from a logistical transformation point of view, they like I kind of alluded to a second ago, the projects are just run very differently. I think on top of that, I think what is incredibly important in a rebrand project is that you create a brand system that resonates with your customers across the marketing and also wider touch points in the business. And if those touch points themselves are fundamentally changing, it's going to be really hard to really get into the detail and design a brand system that resonates there. And on top of that, kind of to your point, which is when someone's kind of replatforming, if you're having to configure the whole new UX design, the custom flows, the journeys, it's a big part of that. Like, to me, it's an enablement project. You're moving to a new platform that in theory is more flexible, that is easier to change and adapt, easier to create modules and all of those things. But if you're designing those first modules with a new brand, you're introducing much more complexity and much more risk. Replatforming is a huge commercial risk for a big retailer. And so if you're changing the identity and then changing the UX at the same time, it's going to be really hard to see what's having an impact and if there's a problem, or having a benefit if you want to do it. So I think I think the smartness of separating those two, getting one out the way first, and ideally probably getting the replatform first is probably the easier way to go, and then you can work on there. But either way, not joining them up to me has always been best practice.
I'd love to hear that. That's really interesting. Maybe talk to us a bit about, I know a lot of Moo's value is kind of rooted in their physical product. You'd mentioned at the beginning that Moo does a lot of business in the US, HQ'd in the UK. How do you really get your customers to engage mainly or entirely online when you're in a physical product category that they might need to feel and have a physical experience with to actually tie it all together?
Yeah, I think it is a challenge. And I think it's a challenge of scale as well. I think naively, like if your experience is based, say, in the UK, you can kind of run events and PR events across in a couple of places in the country and you cover it. That doesn't work in the States, right? But you run it in one state, it's going to be impactful in that one state only. So scale is a big one. But I think we actually kind of kill two birds with one stone actually on one of the main approaches we take, which is we want to get product in customers' hands. And if you buy a Moo product online, you will often design it online, in which case it's normally going to be a desktop journey versus a mobile. But of course, a lot of advertising today is mobile journey led. And so actually putting in what we'd call microtransactions, pretty basic term, right? But by putting in the ability just to quickly order a sample pack and to quickly have that experience and get the product in a customer hand, you both help that kind of mobile traffic that's coming into the site convert and then keep the customer with you. But at the same time, we're getting a differentiating factor of Moo out there, because Moo is a quality product versus the competition. It is sometimes a bit more expensive because of that, but it's never elitely expensive. But it is a great product. So we want to get it in customers' hands. So that's one example. Just to go on a bit more on that. The other example is in marketing. Moo's foundation comes from mixing technology and physical product and getting it to the masses. It's a similar thing with marketing in that we send out direct mail, but we use the data that we have to segment that, use our online data to get the right mail to the right people. And we don't just send out I wish I had an example near me now, but we don't just send out a postcard. We use our pieces to create a brochure inside with a business card. We send out sample packs as direct mail and all these different things. So we put our money where our mouth is, really. So we invest a lot in physical mail, but it's backed up by the smartness of the data behind it. And that's a big performance driver for the business in terms of returning customers.
Very cool. Maybe talk to us a bit about balancing B2B and B2C on a website and how to kind of curate different experiences through almost the same property.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. Like, I think, strictly speaking, all our customers we would class as B2B. I think there's some like products that we sell where people might buy postcards for weddings and pieces like that are there. But our target audience, like we are a challenger brand and we kind of build the brand for that. But our target audience, what we'd call brand conscious customers. But what we do know is that if we just focus on self-serve customers who are often the smaller businesses out there who go on the site, design it themselves, put it on and buy, then we are missing a huge opportunity. So I think you're alluding to a bit the fact that Moo's kind of got these two approaches to the site. It's kind of one is this like white glove service kind of business piece where people can buy into packages that then they get account managers, they get all the kind of designers for to help them. And then the other side is this kind of self-serve piece. So it's pretty tricky to make sure that you're always balancing that in the right way. I think the main principle though is we can often find ourselves in conversations not pulling the customer into it, and we have to constantly pull in so I suppose a short way of putting it is that we want to talk about our managed service offer, but we want to give customers choice. We want to give them the best of both worlds. If they just want to get on and they design it, that's fine. We'll let them. But if they need help designing it, if they want to speak to someone, we're there as well. And that's where we're trying to use new technology, particularly on the new platform, to kind of bridge both worlds. We've got a way to go on that. We're on the journey to get there. But yeah, we really want to kind of choice is the key way of doing it without overwhelming. We do have a bit of a unique challenge though, which I find it's more of a marketing than an e-commerce piece, but we can drive a lot of sessions for a product and it becomes apparent that people are after buying, say, one water bottle or one notebook. And we're about branded stationery. So you buy multiple, you do this. And so you can trick yourselves with the metrics. You think you're getting great engaged traffic from certain adverts and pieces. But actually, if you look at the real story behind it is you've got people there who are arriving at the site thinking they're going to buy a B2C product and realizing it's B2B. And that's a constant battle for us. So we have to make sure that our advertising really speaks volumes of what we offer so we don't accidentally pay a ton of money and get a ton of traffic, but it's the wrong sort. So yeah, there's a couple of challenges mixed in there, really.
Yeah, and let's maybe dig in there. That's actually really interesting. How do you set the right KPIs then for acquisition and conversion if you kind of face that issue? How are you segmenting the traffic? And yeah, curious like how you guys have looked at that.
I think where we've got to on that is testing has been really key. I think that there's some stuff that is I think there's some products we know there's going to be a problem. Like with a business card, you know what it is, you're not there. Similar with a sticker, like if you're going to personalize the sticker, even if you're a B2C customer, if you still want to do it, that's not bad traffic. But like I said, the water bottles, the notebooks. So firstly, it's like we make sure that we don't just put those singular, there's an obvious one, which is we just don't put them in certain adverts because it could drive the wrong traffic. And then if we do want to do that, that's where we have to really kind of babysit those KPIs that you mentioned. I think we have to create the right landing pages for them to make sure it's the right journey, and they need to be super clear up front. The trickiest KPI is engaged traffic, because almost if they're looking around the site to find out that it's not what they want, that kind of appears engaged. And that's kind of what's behind your question. So what we tend to do then is look at the revenue out of that particular piece. And the easier bit for Moo at the moment is because we're growing in these areas and we're not necessarily spending huge in drinkware, we can kind of see whether it's making an impact or not there, because there's not too much of the noise that could be doing it or seasonal variation. So right now, it's not too bad. Like basically we don't rely on the usual metrics of engaged traffic as being a success factor and other ones that the team track. We have to look at the revenue. But yeah, in the future, we're going to have to get a bit smarter. And that's what the team's working on, because yeah, once we've got noise going on, more traffic coming in, it's going to be harder to tell those specific adverts. And I think that's where A/B testing and geo testing is going to come in.
How did some of the technical requirements for your website, for example, clients needing to be able to design a water bottle or design a business card, how did that impact how you folks looked at technology and which platform you guys selected for your e-com?
Yeah, so Claire, who's kind of CTO, she's been leading on this piece. And I think in the past, Moo's been a platform that's fully built kind of from scratch. And I think that is just not necessarily, certainly not the right way to go these days. And I think that the challenge we have is that Moo not only designs the products, but we manufacture and customize those products, almost all of them. So some bits are from other people, but generally we make, manufacture and customize. And that's actually it's similar to my telco days, actually. The back-end systems are much more complex and much more unique. And so following a customer order through is super complex. And so, yeah, I think it is a constant discussion between tech, e-com and commercial around, should we get this off the shelf? What's the limitations and that? And I think the commercial teams come at this naively, but it is a good discussion point, which is if we get it off the shelf, it's faster. But the reality is that most things you get off the shelf, you're going to have to build into and grow and that sort of thing. And moves at the size where actually we need to invest in more bespoke pieces. So we've shifted from a purely bespoke piece to a hybrid. And every functionality is questioned and worked through. We're going through something on trying to limit QC, quality control impacts at the moment. And what appeared to be the right solution was a pre-bought one. We've checked and actually it's quicker to build our own. So it really is each different offer we're having to review, which sounds time consuming, but I think it's quite dangerous to have those all encompassing strategies of we only use off the shelf or we only do this and that side. We are finding that actually today's the automation of today is helping us on that factor, and hybrids are a lot easier.
Yeah, as we look to wrap up, maybe talk to us a bit about how Moo has looked at AI, whether from an internal tooling standpoint or helping your clients with creative. Have you folks found any applications for AI and where?
Yeah, I think the focus has been on, rather than shifting our business, we believe in human connection and pieces like that. And there's a part of that where it's well, actually, you can use AI to just get rid of some of that. But we believe in that differentiation. But what we can do is use AI to empower those people even more. So the research that people in our kind of customer team can do on our clients now is accelerated. So what would take them so long to kind of review clients, look at what's right for them, and that they can use AI to kind of really learn and then offer a better solution to our clients. So from a front end, customer contact point of view, it's kind of really turbocharging the research and the substance that they come up with. And then I think AI is quite dangerous at the moment in terms of it's just hard to see the woods through the trees, right? There's just chat after chat after chat of kind of what's the next big thing. But what's clear and obvious is repetitive tasks, uploadings, the this of this world, alt text creation. We want our website to be usable by everyone. We believe in great design for everyone, and that's everyone. So we want our site, we want alt text, and tasks like that's the focus right now, to automate those tasks that mean that we can keep the quality across the site and also not slow things down with manual processes. So the focus right now is the obvious one. We're not doing anything game-changing with it. It is automation and repetitive tasks, but that's where we will get the most value out of it, I think. And yeah, but obviously as that whole world changes, we're going to adapt our strategy as well.
Very cool. And as we look to wrap up, you've done a lot of big projects in the last 18 months, from a replatforming to a rebrand. What's the number one thing that kind of surprised you going through this process?
I think the biggest surprise actually I think it's a Roosevelt thing about the known unknowns and the unknown unknowns, but just the sheer quantity of the unknown unknowns. And I think today, if you look at the last 5 years, it's the external factors have been the real big impact. I was going through a rebrand at Curry's, and there was a replatform that the tech team was leading then. And then COVID happened. That was a whole change of things. So we decided to roll out the design system because it has benefits, and then waited on the name change and work out whether it's the right thing to do. And then when it comes to Moo as well, it's you're kind of halfway through something, tariffs pops up, this pops up, lots of things. So today it's the external changes. And I think what's particularly tough is the speed of innovation in tech and in e-commerce at the moment is just giving so much choice and so much new stuff that it's really hard to plan for the future, because you can keep going, oh, actually, we should do this. Oh, actually, and that's really dangerous in even the most agile kind of way of working. It's this kind of constant changing is really dangerous. So surprise has been the external factors, but also the sheer number of options and changes that's going on in the industry at the moment means that you're constantly second guessing your plan. And that's been a massive eye-opener as we've been going through this, because the surprise, I suppose, is it creates indecision if you're not careful, and it removes the confidence you have that you're going on the right path. And it's been surprising how hard it's to keep everyone going on the right path with that going on.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. This has been a fantastic episode.
Great to chat. Thanks so much.
The Ecommerce Toolbox Expert Perspectives is brought to you by Noibu. To find out more about Noibu and how we can help you debug your e-commerce site and rocket your revenue, visit www.noibu.com. That's noibu.com. And then make sure to search for the Ecommerce Toolbox Expert Perspectives on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and click subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Noibu, thanks for listening.